The leader of one of the world's biggest drug cartels has been arrested in Texas.
It is breaking right now, unfolding in real time, and it is unlike anything America has seen before. In the early hours of this morning, a massive federal operation led by ICE with support from the FBI and DEA has just taken down one of the most elaborate cartel schemes in U.S. history, an operation so bold, so dangerous, that it threatened the very foundation of public trust in law enforcement. At precisely 4 a.m., more than 200 federal agents moved simultaneously across dozens of locations in Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, and California. Their target was not a typical drug house or stash location. Instead, agents stormed suburban warehouses, parking garages, and storage facilities where cartel operatives had been disguising themselves as police officers. Full uniforms, badges, vehicles, and even functioning radios, all designed to deceive civilians and evade real law enforcement. What they uncovered shocked even the most seasoned federal investigators. This wasn't just another drug bust. This was the dismantling of a parallel shadow police force, a criminal empire hiding in plain sight by wearing the uniform of justice itself. ICE officials confirmed that 15 high-level cartel operatives were arrested during the raids, all of them caught dressed as law enforcement. Some were still behind the wheel of fully modified patrol vehicles when agents moved in. In one case, agents intercepted a fake traffic stop in progress where a cartel impersonator had pulled over an unsuspecting civilian under the guise of a routine check. Inside the trunk of the impersonator's vehicle was over 20 pounds of fentanyl packaged for transport. Officials say the suspect was so convincing that even responding officers hesitated for a moment, unsure if they were approaching a legitimate cop. That chilling hesitation highlights the danger posed by this operation. Federal documents now reveal that the cartel had managed to infiltrate legitimate supply chains to obtain authentic-looking police equipment. Over 50 counterfeit badges were seized, each carrying serial numbers that matched those of real officers in multiple departments. These were not cheap plastic knockoffs, they were precision-forged replicas crafted from the same metals, stamped with correct seals, and polished to law enforcement standards. Alongside the badges, agents recovered stacks of uniforms indistinguishable from official police gear. Some were tactical vests with authentic stitching, the same material used by suppliers that contract with government agencies. According to ICE Director Alan Rodriguez, this level of replication represents the single most dangerous breach of public safety we have ever seen. When criminals can pose as the very people sworn to protect us, the lines between order and chaos collapse. And collapse they nearly did. The cartel used these disguises to run a $50 million trafficking pipeline, moving drugs, weapons, and cash across multiple states under the false protection of flashing lights and sirens. Sources inside the investigation confirmed that at least 12 civilian SUVs had been retrofitted to appear as marked patrol cars. They carried push bumpers, working siren systems, roof-mounted light bars, spotlights, and decals copied down to the department crest and font. From the outside, they were perfect. From a distance of even a few feet, there was no way to tell these cars weren't legitimate police units. But the deception did not stop there. Cartel members had trained extensively to act like police officers. They learned radio call signs, memorized patrol procedures, and even mimicked the body language of law enforcement during stops. In some seized training materials, investigators found printed manuals outlining everything from how to conduct a mock DUI stop to how to stage the aftermath of a drug bust. The cartel operatives studied shift patterns of real police departments, monitoring scanner frequencies to track when officers were tied up on other calls. Using this information, they timed their own movements to avoid detection. Modified radios gave them access to encrypted channels, and federal officials now confirm that some imposters had the ability to mimic dispatcher voices, creating false traffic chatter to mislead patrol officers. The consequences of this scheme were already spilling into communities. Civilians reported instances where supposed officers stopped them late at night on quiet roads, demanded identification, and searched vehicles without warrants. In one disturbing case, a mother from El Paso recalled being pulled over by what she thought was local police, only to later discover that no record of the stop existed. She had unknowingly been questioned by a cartel operative in disguise. While no civilians have yet been reported injured, the psychological damage is immediate and severe. Public trust in law enforcement has been shaken to its core. ICE officials emphasized that every real officer is now at increased risk. A police chief from Arizona, visibly shaken at a morning press conference, admitted that his officers were hesitant during initial contacts this week, never sure whether the person in uniform approaching them was friend or foe. That kind of hesitation, he said, can get good men and women killed in the line of duty. The 15 arrested suspects are facing charges ranging from aggravated impersonation of federal officers to interstate drug trafficking, possession of counterfeit identification, and participation in an organized criminal enterprise. Federal prosecutors have already confirmed they will seek maximum sentencing, which could amount to multiple life sentences without parole. But officials warn that these arrests are only the beginning. Evidence seized during the raids points to a much larger network that may have infiltrated additional supply chains. Investigators are now tracing suppliers of uniforms, badges, and vehicle modification shops believed to have knowingly or unknowingly provided materials to the cartel. Early reports suggest possible corruption among middle-level distributors who had access to police-grade equipment. If confirmed, this would represent a dangerous new overlap between organized crime and legitimate industries. As this story continues to break, law enforcement agencies nationwide are scrambling to implement new security measures. Departments are rushing to roll out digital verification systems that allow officers to confirm their identity in real time through secure apps or encrypted dispatch channels. Civilians are being urged to call 911 if they feel unsure about the legitimacy of a traffic stop. Officials are also considering the introduction of holographic or blockchain-verified ID that would be nearly impossible to forge. But for now, the fear lingers. The reality that cartel operatives were able to convincingly impersonate law enforcement for months, maybe years, has sent shockwaves across the nation.
The depth of this operation is only now being revealed, and the details are darker than anyone expected. According to federal intelligence shared just hours ago, the cartel didn't just assemble these fake police units as a smuggling tactic. They embedded them directly into American communities. Investigators found evidence that operatives in uniform had been patrolling neighborhoods, conducting so-called community policing interactions. They stopped residents, asked questions, and even responded to minor disturbances. Imagine the shock of realizing the officer you waved to at the grocery store parking lot, or the one who drove past your child's school, wasn't law enforcement at all, but a cartel member operating under a stolen badge. This isn't paranoia, it's documented. One family in Albuquerque came forward, recounting how they reported a burglary at their home, and two supposed officers arrived, took statements, and left. The family later called the department for an update, only to be told that no such officers had been dispatched to their address. That chilling revelation confirms the cartel wasn't only smuggling drugs, they were inserting themselves into daily life, weaving criminal control into the very fabric of public trust. ICE officials say the cartel used these fake interactions to gather intelligence on neighborhoods, identify potential stash houses, and keep an eye on law enforcement responses. This was surveillance disguised as service, and it worked for months before federal agents pieced it together. In one of the raided warehouses in Houston, investigators uncovered what looked like a miniature police supply depot. Rows of uniforms hung neatly on racks, shelves stocked with tactical gear, radios lined up in charging docks, and boxes of decals for squad cars stacked floor to ceiling. On a wall, a whiteboard detailed mock shift schedules for the imposters, complete with fake officer call signs. Every detail mimicked the organization of a real precinct. And that was the point, to blur the line between reality and imitation so effectively that not even law enforcement could immediately tell the difference. What made the difference this time was the scale. ICE analysts noticed an uptick in unmarked vehicle stops along key trafficking routes in Texas. When civilians reported stops that couldn't be traced to legitimate officers, suspicions grew. Undercover operations began, and within weeks, agents confirmed the existence of counterfeit units running parallel to actual patrols. This revelation set off alarms across federal agencies, prompting the joint raid that unfolded this morning. Among the seized contraband were ledgers, documenting over $50 million in cartel profits tied directly to this impersonation scheme. Payments were logged for vehicle modifications, gear procurement, and training programs for recruits. Yes, training programs. In one warehouse, agents discovered a makeshift classroom with desks, projectors, and even training manuals designed to teach recruits everything from radio codes to Miranda rights recitations. Videos recovered from laptops show groups of operatives practicing traffic stop drills, standing in formation, and rehearsing arrests exactly as real cadets would at a police academy. Some recruits even wore body cameras, not to protect the public, but to record and review their performances for cartel supervisors. One federal agent at the scene described it as an academy for criminals wearing the uniform of justice. And the danger didn't stop at appearances. These imposters weren't lightly armed. Raids uncovered a cache of over 250 firearms, many of them military-grade. Dozens of AR-15 rifles, several sniper platforms, and fully automatic weapons were discovered alongside boxes of ammunition. Shockingly, many were stored in fake police cruisers, hidden in compartments designed to look like equipment storage. Agents also seized flashbang grenades, riot shields, and tear gas canisters, all equipment that, in the wrong hands, could cause mass civilian casualties. ICE confirmed that in one intercepted shipment, the cartel had attempted to move over 200 pounds of fentanyl and 150 pounds of cocaine using fake patrol escorts. That fentanyl alone, officials emphasized, represents enough lethal doses to kill every American several times over. And yet for weeks, it moved freely under the guise of flashing red and blue lights. Perhaps the most unnerving part of this developing case is the cartel's use of technology. Modified scanners let imposters listen in on police frequencies in real time. But beyond that, seized equipment included laptops loaded with mapping software that tracked patrol patterns of legitimate law enforcement. Drones were also recovered, used to surveil police stations and record officer comings and goings. According to officials, the cartel had compiled extensive profiles on actual officers, including shift schedules, call histories, and even personal data. This information allowed them not only to mimic law enforcement procedures, but to anticipate and exploit gaps in coverage. In some cases, imposters deliberately shadowed real police units, blending into convoys to mask their own movements. It was a ghost force hiding in plain sight, said one ICE field commander. They weren't just dressing like us, they were learning to move like us, to think like us, to operate as if they were us. And while the arrests this morning mark a huge blow to cartel operations, the wider threat is far from over. Federal sources warn that some members of this fake force remain at large. Vehicles may still be active, uniforms may still be in circulation. That means for now, civilians are being urged to exercise caution during any interaction with law enforcement, especially in unmarked or late-night encounters. Departments are issuing new guidance to the public. If you're pulled over by an unmarked vehicle, you have the right to call 911 to confirm the legitimacy of the stop. Officers will understand. If you are approached at home by plainclothes or unverified officers, ask for digital verification or request a backup unit. These measures, once unthinkable, are now becoming essential in a country where criminals have managed to steal not just our safety, but the very image of those sworn to defend it. The ripple effects across law enforcement are immediate and severe. In California, several departments have halted the use of unmarked vehicles for routine patrols, citing public fear. In Texas, officers are now carrying encrypted ID cards that can be verified on the spot. Arizona officials are pushing for legislation to introduce new holographic features into badges, making them nearly impossible to counterfeit. Federal lawmakers, too, are weighing action. Early proposals include mandatory digital ID systems for all officers nationwide and harsher penalties for anyone caught impersonating law enforcement, especially when tied to organized crime. Legal experts predict that this case could lead to a landmark federal law redefining police impersonation as a high-level felony carrying mandatory minimum sentences.